How is the market for coffins? The price of coffins has increased by half. All the coffins that have been stored for years have been sold out? Yes, the price has increased by 50% this year. You can't find coffins for sale in a few dozen kilometers. Even nearby cities like Suzhou come to us to buy coffins. How far is Suzhou from us? Almost 500 kilometers. That means there are too many people who have passed away in our region. That's right. A report by the National Development Institute of Peking University shows that as of January 11th this year, the cumulative rate of infection of the Omicron virus in China was about 64%, and the cumulative number of infected people was about 900 million. Unlike the mild Omicron virus outside of China, the report showed that the most common symptom among infected people in China was fever, with 82% of those interviewed experiencing fever, with 75% having a maximum temperature of 38.5 degrees Celsius or 101.3 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, and 46% having a fever lasting 3 days or more. 76% of the infected respondents felt the infection was worse than their previous most severe flu or cold.
When I posted the last video, I thought I had recovered from being positive and was completely fine. Then I moved on to normal life. I did housework and took care of my children. But a few afternoons ago, I suddenly felt weak. My arms and legs were numb, my heart was racing, and my whole body was particularly ill. I just lay down for a while. At that time, I thought I was like this because I was tired. I didn't expect my condition to get worse and worse, so bad that I felt like I was going to die that night and couldn't survive. I went to the hospital the next morning, and after the tests, I realized that my condition was very serious, with a lung infection and increase in white blood cells. The doctor requested that I be hospitalized. But there were no beds available, so I had to wait until yesterday morning when someone was finally discharged, and I was lucky enough to get a bed to start treatment.
This man, who works for a network company, said that before the Chinese New Year, one of his colleagues passed away at 41. He had been positive before, but his symptoms were relatively mild after he became positive, and he was still relatively young. Now he passed away suddenly, which made us feel anxious. At the beginning, he did not have any symptoms and was the latest one to become positive in our company. We always thought he had good immunity and would make it to the final round, but he eventually went positive. He recovered after being positive. After 23 days, he suddenly developed after effects, and we have them too. I still can't believe everything these experts say. I'm coughing right now, and I'm holding it back to explain to you. I'm not trying to create panic or anxiety, but I'm sharing it for your attention. After a positive recovery, there are more or fewer after effects. Experts say that after recovery, 80 to 90% of people have no symptoms and no after effects. The reality is that 80 to 90% of people have symptoms and after effects. The Chinese Communist government, fearful of losing control over the official narratives of the outbreak, has quickly removed internet reports and social media posts related to the study by the National Development Institute of Peking University. So how many Chinese have been swept away by this epidemic tsunami? On January 21st, the Chinese CDC announced 12,658 cases of new coronavirus-related deaths in hospitals in mainland China from January 13th to the 19th. But as always, these official figures were questioned by outsiders. On the official website of the Beijing Civil Affairs Bureau, in the quarterly statistics section of the public government, the only data not listed for the fourth quarter is the number of funeral services, including the number of cremated bodies. The previous number of cremated bodies was 85,000 in the third quarter, 57,000 in the second quarter, and 28,000 in the first quarter. A user on Twitter posted related screenshots to question the situation. Some Chinese have gone from shock to desensitized by the deaths brought about by the epidemic because they've seen it so much.
Mom, how many people have died in our village since the opening of controls? I don't know. Have there been 20 elderly people who have passed away? It's easily 20. At least 20 people have deceased. So how many people in our village are positive? All of them are positive. There's no one who is not positive.
We cited the following information in a previous episode. On January 16, 2023, the New York-based Epoch Times website published an article, Falun Gong founder, CCP covered up epidemic, death toll reaches 400 million. Some audience members thought this figure was too alarming and that this channel used it as clickbait. That's not the case. We have been following the epidemic in China closely for 3 years, especially the current viral tsunami. One of the purposes of this channel is to reveal major events happening in China right now. Moreover, our team members have family and friends in China who are also being hit by this wave of epidemic. We are trying to stay open-minded, take information from all sides, and analyze it to get closer to the truth. And we found that 400 million is not an outlandish number. We looked at the crematoriums on the official Chinese website. From 2015 to 2019, there was a decline of 4,688 people, and the number of cremators decreased from 2018 to 2019, which indicates that 2019 was a low point. That is, prior to the epidemic, in 2019, the number of deaths in China dropped to the lowest in several years, causing funeral companies to lay off their staff. It can be presumed that funeral homes have less business and need to lay off staff, but cremators cannot be laid off and have to be kept idle. However, from 2019 to 2020, the funeral industry workforce started to skyrocket. It suggested the death rate in China exploded from 2019 to 2020. In 1 year's time, it resulted in funeral workers exceeding the peak in 2015. At the same time, the previously unused cremators were used at full capacity and still not enough. 643 cremators had to be added. In other words, the business of the funeral home increased greatly because if the problem can be solved by working overtime, the funeral home would not have added cremation furnaces. Cremation furnaces can work fast or slowly. The fast ones take 20 minutes to cremate a body, and the slow ones take more than an hour. Let's calculate based on 45 minutes to cremate a body, and the cremator works 15 hours a day. According to the data at the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, 6,619 cremation furnaces could have cremated 48,318,000 bodies a year. China's cremation rate at the beginning of 2020 was 55.7%. In other words, 54.3% of people chose not to be cremated. Especially in the rural areas of China, many elderly people prefer to be buried. So we can presume that the number of deaths in the country in 2020 would be about 86,747,000. Now let's look at the year 2021. The number of funeral workers increased by 6,000 and the number of cremators increased by 424. As projected by the previous method, the number of deaths in the country in 2021 would be about 87,438,000. The data for 2022 isn't out yet. According to this growth rate, without the big explosion at the end of 2022, the number of deaths should be almost the same, around 90 million. But we have all seen the massive outbreak in December 2022. If it is calculated based on the concept that it is more than 10 times that of each month before the virus tsunami, assuming about 80 million people died in December 2022, the number of deaths in 2022 would be 170 million. According to the above, the total would be 86,747,000 in 2020, plus 87,438,000 in 2021, plus 170 million in 2022, equaling about 344 million. This total does not yet include the 2019 death toll. The reason why this virus was named COVID-19 by the World Health Organization, or WHO, is that the WHO named it after the Chinese government's explanation. 19 means 2019. That is to say, the name COVID-19 has revealed in a small way the truth that the pandemic wasn't discovered on January 23, 2020. when Wuhan was locked down, but it rather started in 2019. Honestly speaking, the figure of 344 million deaths in 3 years is conservative. This is because the calculation doesn't take into account the case of multiple bodies in one cremation furnace. Information from multiple sources shows that this phenomenon has been common since December 2022. As it wasn't possible to burn bodies in time, in some places, one furnace had 10 bodies burned at the same time. Sometimes it costs money through connections to have 3 bodies in one furnace. Mountains of people, really mountains of people. So is it an exaggeration to say that the number of deaths in the December outbreak of 2022 has increased more than 10 times? We can get a general idea by looking at the current order of cremators in China. The Shantou Municipal Funeral Home in Guangdong Province spent over $19.16 million during the period from December 7th to January 6, 2022, compared to $13.26 million during the same period the previous year. It was about 1.5 times more, but even this wasn't enough. Currently, the same funeral home has issued a notice to purchase 2 cremators for emergency purposes. According to the tender notice on January 6, 2023, on the government's website, it further specified that due to the urgent procurement needs of the project, suppliers are requested to be cautious in applying for the tender, and all responsibilities arising from the supplier's inability to complete the delivery in accordance with the agreed schedule shall be borne by the supplier. It required delivery within 3 calendar days after contract signing, installation completed and ignition ready within 10 days. The tender budget was approximately $420,000. An advertorial released by Hongtai, a cremation furnace manufacturer in Shandong Province, on its official website says, in December 2022, the state adjusted the prevention and control policy of the new coronavirus. The cremation business of funeral homes surged, and the demand for cremation equipment from funeral homes in some areas increased. Demand entities put forward the requirement that cremation furnaces have a modular structure and can be installed quickly, and expect to be put into use on an emergency basis within a short period of time. The company also produces quick-loading intelligent cremators that can be quickly installed, convenient, and durable, ideal for most funeral homes to cope with the current surge in business and the need to urgently increase cremation equipment. Hongtai said its 40,000 square meter factory is now at full production capacity, working overtime 24 hours a day to meet customers' urgent procurement needs. According to a company's list of customers, the funeral homes are spread across Shanghai, Shandong Province, Hebei Province, and Hubei Province. According to a tender announcement from a Chinese government department, Hongtai beat out 8 competitors on December 29, 2022, to win one of the largest recent tenders to supply 8 cremators to a funeral home in Guangzhou. The total bid amounted to approximately $3.4 million. Public tender documents show that Hongtai was awarded approximately 30 contracts for cremation furnaces by governments across China in 2022, with a contract value of more than $10.32 million. Going into January 2023, according to the tender notices published on the website of multiple provincial governments, by incomplete count, there have been 37 tenders related to cremation furnaces. Look at this way of burning bodies, ready to burn, 1.4 billion people. Let's burn a bunch. Look at what they built, 1.4 billion. 800 million will be burned first before anything else. Look. My goodness. Ah. The expense of the funeral home is increased not only by the cost of the cremator, but by a surge in the procurement of other equipment as well. This includes body bags, urns, flatbed trucks for transporting bodies, equipment for disinfection of remains and indoor air purification, expanded power supply and freezers for storing bodies, large vehicles for transporting coffins, etc. In early January 2023, multiple funeral parlors in China requested tender for these types of equipment. On January 20th, Reuters also confirmed that public tender documents for China's mortuary facilities showed an increase in equipment purchases since early December 2022, compared to the same period the previous year. This is a rural village in the central province of China where many companions have been added to the wheat fields. They are graves. It is said that 27 people passed away in 3 days in a nearby village. Cover-ups and distortions are the styles of every government agency under the direction of the Chinese Communist Party. Moreover, the official Chinese media will present an almost opposite picture to the public. Look, this is a joyful scene presented in the party's media during the Chinese New Year. The theme of the gala was a new era of China, a new and better life. Many Chinese party media declared that people all over China were celebrating the New Year with joy and enthusiasm. More than 2,000 years ago, it was written in the classic Chinese books of rituals that if your neighbor is having a funeral, you should not shout the labor call while pounding rice. If someone in the neighborhood is having a funeral, you should not sing in the alleys. Use silence to express your condolences to them. From the Book of Rites. A well-known Chinese writer said on his social media, "To my friends, relatives, and online acquaintances, I would like to thank you all for the New Year's greetings. At a time when my fellow countrymen and folks are facing life and death, how can I be in the mood to listen to Happy Chinese New Year, Gong Xi Fa Cai, and the like? Please excuse me." It should be admitted that the lively and festive Chinese New Year gala has indeed mesmerized many Chinese people. The Chinese media reported that the live broadcast of the Year of the Rabbit Gala officially began at 10:30 p.m. and the viewership exceeded 25% with a market share of over 70%. But there is no shortage of sober Chinese both at home and abroad who feel sad and angry. They wrote, "It is cold-blooded and shameless to hold the Spring Festival Gala at this time when millions of people died in the national tragedy. Everyone has the right to celebrate the Chinese New Year, but is it appropriate to cheerfully and loudly celebrate on national television when thousands of our fellow Chinese have passed away?" Another netizen wrote, "Half an hour into the Spring Festival Gala, not a single segment, not a single detail, not a single line was mentioned about the national misfortune and misery of the past year as if nothing happened except happiness." In addition, China Central Television, CCTV, broadcasted or reported the Spring Festival Gala in 68 languages to audiences in 170 countries and regions. Bombarded by festive shows like this, viewers overseas may feel like they live in a parallel world when they come to watch our channel.